In the bustling markets of Sardis, the grand capital of Lydia today, Turkey, merchants shouted over one another, trading spices, fine textiles, and exotic goods from distant lands. But trade in these times was a messy affair. Bartering was unreliable. And even when people used gold and silver, every transaction required tedious weighing and testing. Was this really pure gold or just another merchant's trick? Then came King Alyattes, a ruler who saw beyond the chaos. Around 600 BCE, he ordered something unheard of, a new way to trade. His craftsmen melted down electrum, a rare mix of gold and silver found in the nearby Pactolus River, and shaped it into small, stamped discs. These weren't just any discs. They bore the royal seal, a guarantee of their weight and value. For the first time in history, a merchant could hand over a coin, not a bag of grain, and know exactly what it was worth. No more haggling over weights, no more disputes. A revolution had been minted. Trade flourished, and Sardis became one of the richest cities in the ancient world. But the true golden age came under King Croesus, Alyattes' son. He saw the flaw in electrum. Its mix of gold and silver made values unpredictable. So he ordered the first pure gold and pure silver coins to be minted, refining Lydia's system into something even more precise. With these new coins, Lydia's wealth became legendary. Even the great Persian king Cyrus took notice, and eventually took Lydia itself. But while the kingdom of Lydia faded, its greatest invention endured. The Greeks adopted coinage, then the Romans, and before long the world ran on money. So next time you pull out some cash or check your crypto balance, remember the Lydians. The world of trade changed forever in the markets of Sardis, all thanks to the tiny golden discs that started it all. A quick disclaimer before we begin: there are lots of legends about Croesus and his wealth. But there's a reason we're telling this story on a channel about history. While many details are lost to myth, the general timeline is well documented by archaeologists and historians. Now back to our story. Imagine you're a merchant traveling through the ancient world. You've got goods to sell, but how do you pay for them? Your options are limited. If you have valuables like silver goblets or bales of silk, you can barter. That is, you can trade them directly for what you want. But finding someone who both wants what you have and has what you need is pretty difficult. What if you had a universally valuable good that wasn't particularly useful? Salt, for example, was incredibly important for preserving food, but not very useful for buying things other than more salt. Well, you could use commodities like wheat, livestock, or slaves. But since their value depended on how much you had, they weren't ideal either. The obvious solution was currency, something with consistent value that everyone accepted. But how do you get everyone to agree on a value for anything? Lydia, an ancient kingdom on the western coast of modern Turkey, was a perfect place to answer that question. For centuries, the Lydians had mined and traded metals in the region, especially electrum, a natural alloy of gold and silver. By 600 BCE, it was the most valuable commodity in the area. And although the Lydian king at the time, Alyattes, had already minted an electrum coin, it had a major flaw. Each piece had to be weighed and tested to confirm its value, and unscrupulous merchants often cheated. If there was a better solution, it hadn't been discovered yet. That is, until a series of unfortunate events forced Alyattes to develop a new system. As the local legend goes, Alyattes and his neighboring rival, the king of Media, decided to settle their differences once and for all. They met in the middle, drew a line in the ground, and unleashed a massive earthquake on each other. Okay, maybe that last part's not part of the legend. Either way, the two kings were forced to team up, and they soon realized their combined armies weren't enough to deal with a much larger threat, the expanding Neo-Assyrian Empire. To defend himself, Alyattes needed resources, lots of them. But collecting taxes from his subjects was difficult. Farmers didn't want to pay with crops because they needed those to survive. Artisans didn't want to pay with finished goods because they could sell them for more. And bartering was still complicated. So Alyattes summoned his best craftsman and ordered him to solve the problem. Using electrum, the most valuable resource in the region, he wanted something small, light, and durable. It had to be cheap to produce and impossible to counterfeit. His craftsman rose to the occasion, creating a small disc stamped with an official seal. This was more than just a stamp. It guaranteed that the coin's weight and composition were exactly what Aletia's intended. This innovation may not have saved Lydia from the Assyrians, but it did lead to a massive increase in trade within the kingdom. When Aletias paid his soldiers, not with sacks of grain, but with newly minted coins, the Lydians were able to afford much larger standing armies. Officials could pay the messengers who collected taxes with the same coin, guaranteeing that all parties would get exactly what they bargained for. It was the perfect solution, except for one thing. The new coin only worked in Lydia. To solve that problem, Aletia's successor, King Croesus, created two separate denominations, one made of pure gold and the other of pure silver. At first, the gold coins were only 1/10 of a silver coin. But after Croesus defeated the nearby Sumerians, he devalued the gold coin so that it was worth twice as much, making a complete set of 7 different denominations. With a full range of high and low denomination coins, Lydia's subjects could make any transaction without having to break a piece of precious metal. Of course, the new system wasn't perfect. One theory suggests that the exact size and shape of Lydia's coins led to counterfeiting. Still, there's no denying the impact. From the moment they were introduced, Lydia's coins helped catapult Sardis, the kingdom's capital, to become one of the richest cities in the ancient world. According to Herodotus, Herodotus was a Greek historian and geographer from the Greek city of Halicarnassus, now Bodrum, Turkey. Under Persian control in the 5th century BC, Croesus was so wealthy he could afford to bribe every official in the Persian Empire to let Lydia stay independent. Of course, that plan fell apart when the Persians found out about the bribes, but Croesus isn't remembered for his diplomatic skills or failure. Instead, he became famous for his wealth. After all, the name of the famous phrase, rich as Croesus, comes from him. Even today, we don't know exactly how rich he was, but according to Herodotus, Croesus could afford to bribe every official in the Persian Empire. But whether he was as rich as his reputation suggests doesn't matter. Here, portrait of Croesus, last king of Lydia, Attic red figure amphora, painted CB 500-490 BC. The real treasure was the friends we made along the way, or rather the kingdoms we influenced. As soon as other civilizations encountered Lydia's coins, they wanted in on the action. First, the Greeks started minting their own coins, though some scholars argue that the Etruscans did it first. The point is, it happened soon after Croesus introduced his new currency. Then the Romans minted their own coins after conquering Greece. And when the Byzantine Empire took over the Roman Empire, they kept minting coins, of course. As soon as nation-states replaced empires, they began minting their own currencies too. Before long, the entire world ran on money. Here lies Bin Tepe Royal Funeral Tumulus, tomb of Alyattes, father of Croesus, Lydia, 6th century BC. And while we can't say for sure what would have happened if Croesus hadn't invented the first standardized currency, we can say for sure that he kicked off one of the most influential trends in human history. So the next time you pull out some cash or check your crypto balance, remember the Lydians. The world of trade changed forever in the markets of Sardis, all thanks to the tiny golden discs that started it all. And thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, check out our other content for more stories about ancient civilizations. Thanks again for watching, and see you next time.